What we will do today is, like I said, that there are few types of special cases. While deploying certain types of components, there are few things which you should keep in mind. So we'll discuss them now. I will do is okay. So as a first case, what we will do is, like, we will see how we can migrate profile permissions. So, like I was said that all of you have knowledge on you have some kind of knowledge on Salesforce platform. That's the reason I'm not going to cover the administrative details. So, assuming that all of you have some kind of knowledge on Salesforce administration already. So, as a first case, we will see how we can migrate profile permissions. So, for that, like in order to see this, what I will do is I will take the same object which we were using in the previous two sessions. And so inside this object, so I have created a couple of fields. Name of one is demo field and the name of the other is demo field. Now I will try to migrate the profile permissions of this particular field. So let me check. So as of now, like I have logged into my dev R and I have opened this particular field. So I'm just checking the profiles for which this particular field has permissions. Okay, so this field has permissions to many profiles. So out of these profiles, first let's try to migrate the profile permissions of system administrator profile. So system administrator is a standard profile which will be available, which comes by default whenever we create an org. So now I will show you how we can migrate the profile permissions of this particular field to system administrator profile. It's nothing but system administrator profile permissions uh, of this field. So now, in order to do that, so what I will do is I will open the VS Code. Okay. So now my requirement is I need to migrate the profile permission. So which is nothing but the profile. Profile is nothing but it is a collection of permissions. All of the permissions will be stored in profile, and I need to migrate that particular profile. So in package.xml, what I will do is I will specify the profile. So the metadata type for profile is profile, and the API name of system administrator profile is admin. So you can, if you want to cross check, you can even check this in Workbench. So let me log into Workbench. So if I go to metadata types and components, so if you see here, admin is the API name of the system administrator profile. So now I will save this package.xml. Okay, so it got saved. So the next step is, I'm repeating once again. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to migrate demo field permissions, demo field permission of system administrator profile. So that is what I'm trying to do. So that's the reason I have specified the profile in the package.xml. So now what I will do now is I will retrieve the component that is specified in this package.xml from the dev or and let me retrieve first. So I'm typing in the command that needs to be run in order to retrieve the components. It's sfdx space force colon source colon retrieve. So let this get executed. Okay. So what happened is like I got an error saying that error authenticating with JWT. So the reason for this is the connection with my dev or got broken. So what I will do is like this won't happen generally. So because of some reason, so like I tried something and it got broken. So but once you establish the connection, it will remain as it is. So I will show you like I can even show you the status of the connection as well. So that's the reason I have run this command sfdx space force colon or colon list. So if you see here, the status of the connection is not in connected status. So it's saying that JWT out error. So what I will do is I will re-establish the connection. So in order to do that, I will run the command in order to establish a connection between the CLI on our machine and the Salesforce server. So the command is south colon web colon login followed by instance URL. So this is the same command which I showed you yesterday. So let me run this and I will click on login. So the authentication is successful. Let me go back to VS Code. Okay, so now I will run the retrieve command again. So while this is in progress, let me show you like the field permissions in QA org. So as of now, if I go to QA org, so I'll show you the field permissions in QA org. Let me open it in Classic. Okay, so if you see here, forget about all of the other profiles. So there is this profile called as system administrator, and as of now, like system administrator profile does not have any permissions to this particular field. So now let me, the retrieval got succeeded. Now what I will do is I will deploy that particular profile to QA org, and we will check the permissions after the deployment. So I'm running the deploy command. The org into which I want to deploy is the QA org, whose alias name is vpath QA. Okay, so the deployment got succeeded. So we can see the message here. If I now go to QA org and if I refresh this page, okay. So if I refresh this page, so even now I am not able to see like I can't see the profile permissions got updated. So the reason for this is so whenever deploying the profile permissions, you should keep a couple of points in mind. So like how profile deployments works is like when you this specify package dot profile in package dot XML and do a retrieval. So like when you specify and you just specify profile in package.xml and do a retrieve, only active system permissions gets retrieved. So when you just specify profile in package.xml and do a retrieve, So what happens is like only the active system permissions gets retrieved. Now, what is meant by active system permission? So active system permissions means, so if I open the profile, so profile is nothing but it is a collection of permissions. So it will have like a lot of permissions, like it will have object permissions, field permissions, tab permissions, app permissions. So it is nothing but it is a collection of permissions. So out of all of these permissions, so there will be something called as general system permissions as well. Let me open the profile. Okay, so if you see here, this is the system administrator profile. So if you see here, like there is a section called as layouts, and after layouts, so there will be a section called as, so there is a section called as field level security. Field level security is nothing but field permissions. And after that, we have something called as custom app settings, which is nothing but custom app permissions. So all of the permissions of a profile are categorized. So based on the kind of permissions. So layout in the first section, it is displaying layout permissions, and in the second section, it is displaying field permissions. In the third section, it is displaying the app permissions. So similarly, like we have tab settings, which is nothing but the tab permissions, and record type settings, which is nothing but the record type permission. So likewise, all of the permissions of a profile are categorized. Now, so there will be a section called as administrative permissions. So active system permissions means like it is nothing but the administrative permissions. So whenever you specify just the profile, not the administrative permissions, whenever you specify just profile in the package.xml and do a retrieval, what happens is like only the active system permissions gets retrieved. So the meaning of active system permissions is the user permissions whichever are set to true. Only the user permissions whichever are set to true, those permissions gets retrieved. So that's how the profile retrieval works. So I can show you this in the profile code file which got retrieved. So if I go here and open this particular file, so if you see here, like as of now, like in this particular profile metadata file, which is nothing but the profile code file, so you can only see the user permissions. So, and if you look at all of these user permissions, so you can see the enabled property set to true. So now what happened is like when I did the retrieval, only the user permissions which were set to true in that particular or got retrieved. So the meaning of active system permissions is nothing but the user permissions whichever are set to true gets retrieved. So now how can we retrieve the component permissions is the next question. So as of now, like I am trying to retrieve and deploy the field permissions. So in order to do that, so what you should do is like if you want to retrieve any specific component permissions of a profile, you should specify the component as well as the profile in the package.xml. So my requirement now is I need to migrate the permissions of demo field to system administrator profile. So I will also specify the field as well in package.xml file. And let's see what happens when I specify the field and profile together in the package.xml. So let me copy this. So I will also add field as well here. Okay. So I'm just changing I have added the field. I'm also adding the uh, profile as well. Now what I will do is with this package.xml I will do a retrieval again. Okay. So the retrieval got happened. So if I now go to the admin metadata file or code file, so here you can see the field permissions as well. So the reason why field permissions got retrieved is like we have specified field along with profile in the package.xml. So that's how like while deploying profile permissions, so like based on the components whose permissions need to be deployed, you should specify those components along with the profile in the package.xml. So now if I do a deployment with this profile metadata file, Okay. So now if I go to QA or so I am in QA or I will refresh this page. So if you see here now the you can see the administrator profile permission here. So this is one point which you should keep in mind while migrating the profile permission. So this point gets applicable to all the other types of permission. So as of now, like we saw the case of migrating a field permission. Suppose if your requirement is if you want to migrate an app permission, so then what you will do is app permission of let's assume that app permission of system admin profile. So what you will do is you will specify the app as well as profile in the package.xml, app and admin profile in package.xml file. So similarly, like if you want to migrate a object permission, you will specify object as well as the profile to which whose permission needs to be deployed, the object as well as profile in the package.xml. And if you want to migrate a tab permission, tab and profile will be specified. So it depends on your use case. So the simple rule is if you want to migrate any component permission, the component as well as the profile should be kept in the package.xml file. So then only the component permissions gets retrieved. Otherwise, if you just specify the only profile, what happens is like only active system permissions gets retrieved. So this is one case, this is the case of how we can deploy profile permissions. The next case is, so how can we deploy a brand new profile? So suppose if you have created a brand new profile, like a brand new profile is nothing but you have created a new profile. So, like the migration of a brand new profile is like if you want to migrate a new profile, so then you should follow few steps in order to migrate the profile exactly. And so, like we'll come to this case later. So I will show you this case later. But for now, like we will consider another case. So we'll consider the case of migration of deleted components. So suppose if you want to delete a component through deployment. So what we should do is like we will see this case first, deleted component migration. Now, what I will do is in order to understand this case, so I will delete one of the field which we created earlier. I will delete that field in my development org, and I will show you how we can delete a field through deployment into like I will show you how it can be deleted through deployment in the QA org. So here, if I go to the fields on this particular object, the same demo object. So here what I will do now is I will delete this field whose name is demo field 2. Let me, so before deleting what I will do is I will copy the name of the API name of this particular field, and after this what I will do is I will delete this particular field. Okay, so the field got deleted in dev or so like if I want to delete if I want to delete components through the deployments, so how we can do that is, so there should be a file similar to package.xml file. There should be a file like whose name should be destructive changes.xml. So the name can be anything, but there should be one more XML file. So we can name it as destructive changes.xml, and so we can make use of that particular file in order to delete the components. So now what I will do is you can just follow the steps whichever I do in order to delete the component through the deployment. So now what I will do is here in this particular folder, I will add a file here. So let me add a file. So inside this SFDX project folder, so I am adding destructive changes .xml. So I'm just creating an XML file and I'm naming it as destructive changes. So here, so in this destructive changes.xml file, so it will be similar to package.xml file. So the rules for defining this file will be similar to package.xml. So now you should specify the component that needs to be that need to be deleted in this particular file. So now what I will do is, so I will specify the component that need to be deleted here. So I need to delete a component whose name is demo field 2. So I have, let me change the name. So, so this is the API name of the component. So now, as of now, like what I did is like I have created a file and I named it as destructive changes.xml. And in this destructive changes.xml, I specified the field that needs to be deleted. So now what I will do is uh, I will run the deploy command. So in the deploy command, what I will do is I will do a slight modification. So the force source deploy command will support a parameter called as actually like it will support two parameters whenever we want to do deleted component migration. One is post destructive changes and the other one is pre-destructive changes. So I'll tell you the difference between post destructive changes and pre-destructive changes like in a few minutes. So let's try to understand post destructive changes parameter first. So now is the source deploy command will support a parameter which is called as post destructive changes. And so for this post destructive changes parameter, you should pass in the path of the file in which the components needs to be deleted or specified. So now I have the components that needs to be deleted in destructive changes.xml file, and I am passing this file name as the input to post destructive changes parameter. Now, whenever you try to delete any components, if you want to just delete the components, then what you can do is you can keep your package.xml file empty. So if you want to just delete the components, you can keep the package.xml file empty. But if you want to deploy some components and also delete some components, then in that case, what you can do is you can keep the components to be deployed in package.xml and keep the components to be deleted in destructive changes XML file. But if you want to just delete the components, so you should keep your package.xml file empty. So empty in the sense you should have contain like you should have these lines. So you should not you can't remove these lines. So the only thing that should be kept in the package.xml file is like you should specify the version number. So in order to keep the version number, so version tag is a child tag of package tag, and package is a child we should also have the XML tag as well, because it is nothing but it is the processing information which tells the system whichever processes this particular file that it is an XML file. So that's the reason we should have these four set of lines. So empty package.xml means it should contain these four set of lines. Now, as of now, I will just try to delete the components, but won't deploy any components. So for that, this is the command I'm going to run. So let me run this command. Okay. So it says the deployment got succeeded. So if I go to the QA org, I will open the demo object. So if I go to fields and relationships, so I can't see the deleted field here now. So this is how you can delete a component through deployment. So by using the post destructive changes parameter. So when it comes to the parameters that can be used for deleting the components, there is one more parameter aspect which is called as pre-destructive changes. So the difference between pre-destructive changes and post-destructive changes is, so in order to understand this, so there are two parameters supported by source deploy command. One is pre-destructive changes and the other one is post-destructive changes. Suppose let's consider the case of what we will do is, so in order to understand this, so let's consider the case of you want to deploy, so you have a requirement like, so you want to deploy a, like, let's consider you want to deploy a field as well as, instead of a single field, let's assume that you want to deploy two fields, and you want to delete a field as well. So delete a field as well in the same deployment. So in the same deployment, you need to migrate two fields which got created newly, or there are some modifications happened on this particular field, and you want to delete a field as well. So for this case, what you will do is you will specify the fields that should be migrated in package.xml, and you will specify the field that need to be deleted in the destructive changes XML file. So now, so in order to do this, you can either make use of pre-destructive changes or post-destructive changes options or parameters. Now, the difference between pre-destructive changes and post-destructive changes is what happens is like for the same case. So like for the same case, if you use the pre-destructive changes option, so first the deletions will happen, and later the component specified in the package.xml gets deployed. And like if you use post-destructive changes parameter or option, first the components in the package.xml gets deployed, and later the deletions happen. So like this what the primary difference between these two options is, like they will define the order in which the deletions happen. So whether we use post-destructive changes or pre-destructive changes, so we will definitely have package.xml file, because the package.xml file, the manifest parameter or option is a required parameter. So the manifest option, so which we are passing to the source deploy command. So if you see here, we are passing this manifest option. So this is a required option. So without this, you can't run the deploy command. So whether you use post-destructive changes or pre-destructive changes, definitely you will pass in this manifest parameter, to which you will specify the path of the package.xml. So now, when you use post-destructive changes, first the components in the package.xml gets deployed, and next the components specified in the destructive changes gets deleted. And when you use pre-destructive changes, like first the components specified in destructive changes gets deleted, and then the components specified in the package.xml gets deployed. So if the package.xml is empty, nothing gets deployed. So that's how like these two parameters work. But in real time, so in order like for in order to migrate certain types of cases, like you should definitely use either pre-destructive changes or post-destructive changes. So I will tell you a case for that. So let's consider a case of, so what I will do is, in order to tell you the usage of post-destructive changes, so I will create a case. So what I will do is, I will create a validation rule, and I will deploy that validation rule first. So later I will show you the usage of post-destructive changes. So for that, what I will do is, okay, so as of now, like I have demo field, and let me create one more field. So what I will do is I will create a field first. So I will name it as field to be deleted. So I can give any name, but I'm naming it as field to be deleted. Let me click on next. Okay, let these be there. Next, I will create a validation rule, and so what I will do is check if, okay, so instead of this, check if fields are empty. And So for the validation rule formula, what I will do is I will, okay, so let me using this function is null, and here, so let me add one more formula to this validation rule. Okay, so for error message, I will name it as demo field and field to be deleted. Okay, instead of this. Okay, so what I'm doing here is like I have created a validation rule. So, and what this validation rule will do is it will check whether both of these fields, like demo field and field to be deleted, has a value or not. So, if both of these does not contain a value, so then it will throw this error message just saying that at least one of demo field or field to be deleted should have a value. So that's what this validation rule will do. Like whenever a record gets created into this particular object, it will check whether both of these fields will have a value or not. So if both of these fields doesn't have a value, it will prevent the record from getting saved and it will throw this message. So that's what this validation rule will do. Like as all of you have some Salesforce background, or as you have already aware of these administrative things, so you should be able to understand this. Now, so I created a field and validation rule. So what this validation rule is doing is like it is referring two fields. One is the demo field and the other one is field to be deleted. Now what I will do is first I will deploy this validation rule as well as the field which I created newly to the QAR. Now let me copy the validation rule. I'll prepare the package.xml with these two components. So here, and the field name is field to be deleted. Oh, the validation rule didn't got added. Let me re-add it. Okay, so I have let me copy this. So the validation rule and field are present in the package.xml. So here, what I will do is I will add this package.xml here, and first what I will do is I will deploy this validation rule and field to the QAR. Later, I will show you the usage of post-destructive changes option. Now, let me retrieve these components. Okay, so now what I will do is I'll run the deploy command. So in order to deploy both of these to QA or okay, so the deployment got completed. So if I go to QA org now and refresh this page, I should see the field as well as the validation rule. I can see the field similarly, so I can see the validation rule as well. So now let's assume that so the developer got a request saying to remove delete the field name, the field to be deleted. So like the developer got a request and he was asked to delete the field to be deleted field on the demo object. So now let's do that. So what I will do is in my dev or I will try to delete that particular field. So here I will go to demo object and so I'll go to fields and relationships and I will click on delete. Okay, so if you see here, it is throwing an error message saying that the field is referred in the validation rule. Please remove the reference of this particular field from the validation rule. So that's the meaning of this. Now, what I will do is, so what the developer did is, let's assume that he removed the reference of this particular validation rule. So in order to do that, so he modified this particular validation rule and removed this particular field reference. And he also changed the error message to demo field is required. So let's assume that the developer modified the validation rule in this way. So he removed the reference of that particular field which he want to delete, and he also uh, modified the error message as well. Now let me save this, and if I go to fields and relationships, I will try deleting this particular field now. Okay, so the field got deleted. So now I want to delete this particular field from the QA org. So in order to do that, so I should specify this particular field to be deleted in package.xml. I specified the field in the package.xml, and so let's first what I will do is I'll make the package.xml empty and I will try to delete that particular field in QA. So as of now, the destructive changes file has the field to be deleted and the package.xml file is empty. So let's try to deploy the changes into QA or with this destructive changes file. Okay, so I'm running the command. Okay, so if you see here, the deployment got failed. So the reason why the deployment got failed is, so it is saying like we are seeing the same error which we got while trying to that particular field, saying that that particular field is referred in a validation. So so even though we had only one component, the same error is getting displayed twice. Let's check the error in QA org. So if I go to deployment status, let me switch to the classic. Okay, so there for some reason it is displaying uh, like the same error twice. But if you see here, you can see the error saying that this custom field is referenced elsewhere in Salesforce.com, and it is nothing but it is referred in a validation route. So now for this case, so if you like remember the things which I did for I did in order to delete this particular field in the dev or so first I modified the validation rule in order to remove the field reference and later I deleted the field in the dev org. So now if you want to do this deletion in the QA org as well, first you need to remove the reference of the validation remove the reference of the field from the validation rule. So in the package.xml, what you can do is you can specify the validation rule in package.xml, and so if you try to do the deployment now, what happens is like the deletion of the field happens. So if I run this particular command now, Post destructive changes package.xml. Validation rule is there. Destructive changes.xml. I'm just checking the reason for this error. We shouldn't get this error because so what should happen now is first the validation. Okay, so let me check if I specified. Okay, so first the modified validation rule should get deployed, and post that the field should get deleted. So what is happening here is let me check if the validation rule. Okay. So the reason why it didn't happen is like I need to retrieve the modified validation rule as well. So the validation rule, which is the validation rule, which is getting deployed. So it contains the reference to both of these fields. So I need to take a fresh retrieval in order to get the updated code of the validation rule. So that's the reason we got that error. So let me take the retrieval first. Okay, so I have the modified validation rule now. Now let me try running the deploy command with this post destructive changes option. Okay, so now the deployment got succeeded. So if I go to QAR and check for that particular field, demo object, so the field got deleted. So and even the validation rule might should have got updated. So it should contain only the reference to the demo field only. So now the point that you should keep here, keep in mind here, keep in mind is the usage of post destructive changes option is if you want to deploy some components before deleting the components, so then in that case you will go with the post destructive changes. But if you want to first delete the components and then deploy something, then you can go with the pre-destructive changes. So generally, so this will be useful while doing the deletions of the type. So like in Salesforce, we will see two types of deletions. So first thing is like whenever in one kind of deletion, so what happens is like whenever you delete a component, Salesforce will automatically remove the reference of the deleted components from the components wherever it is referred. The other case is Salesforce will not automatically remove the reference of the components, remove the reference of the deleted components from wherever it is referred. So you will see two cases. One case is where Salesforce will automatically remove the reference of the reference of the deleted component from the components wherever it is referred. So the example for this is let's assume that you have a field and the field is also added to the layout. So the field is added to layout. So, and let's assume that the field got created and it was added to the layout, and the field as well as the layout were deployed to the QA. So now, if you delete this particular for some reason, like you got a request and you, in the sense like the developer got the request and he deleted this particular field. So when the developer deletes this particular field, so what happens is like Salesforce in the backend, it will automatically update the layout also. So it won't ask the developer to manually remove the reference of the field from the layout, but it will automatically update the layout in the backend and it will remove the deleted field reference in the backend. So this is the case of the removal of the automatical removal of the deleted component reference. So like it will happen with few other components as well. Let's if you consider a case of like let's assume the case of we have a field, and that particular field is referred in profile. Field is referred in profile. So for this, even for this case, what happens is like when you delete this particular field, Salesforce in the backend, it will automatically update the profile file and it will remove the reference of that particular field from the profile. So this is one case. So this is the case of where Salesforce automatically remove the reference of the deleted component. So the other case is Salesforce will not automatically remove the reference of the deleted component from the components wherever it is referred. So for that, one example for that is the case which we saw. So we took a field as well as a validation rule. The field was referred in the validation rule. So in this case, when we tried to delete the field, what happened is Salesforce didn't remove the field reference from the validation rule automatically. So it asked us to remove the field reference from the validation rule. So we modified the validation rule in order to remove the field reference, and post that Salesforce allowed us to delete the field, delete that particular field. So similarly, like one more example is if you have a field which is referred in a flow. So even for this case, so if you try to delete this particular field, Salesforce will uh, ask you to remove the reference of the field from the flow. Or the other case is like if you have a field which is referred in an apex class. So even for this case, so like Salesforce will ask you to modify the apex class in order to remove that particular field reference. So this is the second case where Salesforce doesn't do the automatical removal of that particular deleted component. So for this second case, so this post destructive changes option comes into picture. So whenever you try to delete the components of this second case, you should make use of post destructive changes. For the other case, the order, the order in which you try to delete doesn't matter. You can make use of pre-destructive changes or post-destructive changes. So that is the use of the post-destructive changes parameter. Now, one more thing is let me show you where we can find the commands whichever I'm trying to use here. So like there is a standard CLI documentation available, so which is nothing but the Salesforce CLI command line reference. So now, so in this particular document, what happens is like you will see all of the commands that are available under Salesforce CLI. So on the left hand side of this particular page, you will see a couple of sections. So one section is starting with SF and the other section is starting with SFTX. So now the latest, what happens is like this CLI gets updated frequently. With the latest update, what happened is all of the commands are starting with the keyword SF. So the older versions of CLI, what happened is in the older versions of Salesforce CLI, all of the commands used to start with the keyword SFTX. But with the latest update, what happened is all of the commands are get starting with the keyword SF. So as of now, I have not updated the CLI version on my machine. But if you download the latest version, it might ask you to type in the comments which start with this SF keyword. So there will be a slight difference. So and there will be some hardly some 5 to 10 comments which we will use frequently. So you can find out those comments from here, and you can make a copy of it. Otherwise, I will share a document later once the group gets created. So here, so let me show you how you can understand these comments. So if you look at the commands that are available under SFTX section, so you can see subsections inside SFTX section again. So there are sections so there is a section called as force namespace, and there is a section called as out namespace. So the deploy command which I'm trying to use, the retrieve and deploy commands which I am using now, so they are available under force namespace, and under force namespace. So there is one more section called as force commands. So if you see here, so there is something called as force source deploy. So this is the command which I'm trying to use here. So when you click on any command, what happens is you will see the detailed information regarding the usage of that particular command. So it will display you uh, the purpose of that particular command, as well as all of the options or parameters that are supported by that particular command. So if you take the case of this source deploy command, so it will support these many parameters. So it will support a parameter called as check only, which will be used if you want to just validate the deployment package. And similarly, like there is a parameter called as manifest. Similarly, there is a parameter called as So I'm just showing you the parameters which we covered. So like there is a parameter called as pre-destructive changes, and there is a parameter called as post-destructive changes. So similarly, like there are few other parameters as well. So apart from this, so if you scroll down, so like it will also show you different examples on the usage of the commands as well. So like how we can use the commands with different parameters. So apart from that, so in the bottom of the screen, so it will display you the command syntax as well as the uh, purpose of each and every option purpose, and as well as it will also display you the all of the parameters that are supported by that particular command. So here in the command syntax section, so it is displaying the actual command as well as all of the parameters or options that are supported by this particular command. So, and for in the bottom of the screen, so if you see here, it will also display you the kind of input that should be passed to each and every parameter. So as of now, like we have covered the manifest parameter as well as the post destructive changes parameter as well. So let me show you the information. So if you see here, we can see this manifest parameter here. So so you can see this parameter as an optional parameter. So the meaning of that is like it's not mandatory to use this particular manifest parameter when you try to do the deployment. So it depends on whether it depends on a separate case. I will tell you like the case when we can't deploy the components without using manifest parameter. So if you see here, so it says this particular parameter is optional, and the input that should be passed for this particular parameter is the path of the package.xml file. So similarly, so if you look at this pre-destructive changes and post-destructive changes parameters, even these are optional parameters. And for this, the input that should be passed is destructive changes pre.xml. So similarly, there is a parameter called as check only. So if I go top, so if you see here, you can see a parameter called as check only, and so it is a optional parameter. And so if you look at the data type of this particular parameter, so it is boolean. So boolean data type indicates you can either pass the boolean values as the input. So boolean values in the sense like you can either pass true or false as the values to this particular parameter. So similarly, like you can like go through other comments as well. So in the coming sessions, what we will do is like I will show you the other options as well which we are going to use. So with that, you will get an understanding on how we can use the uh, different options or parameters that are supported by each command. So like if you want to like go through the all of the commands that are supported by Salesforce CLI, you can make use of this particular document. So otherwise, so what I will do is I will only keep the commands which we are going to use in real time in a document, and I will share that particular document in the channel once that gets created. So in the next class, so as of now, like what we did is like we saw the case of how we can deploy profile permissions, and we also saw the case of how we can migrate or delete the components through the deployment. So in the next class, what we will do is like we will see how we can deploy a new profile, and we will see how we can. There is something called as test classes. We will see how we can run test classes while doing the deployment. Suppose that we will take the example of Bitbucket project, and we will do all of the things from the scratch. So that's it from me for today. If you have any questions, you can stay back and ask me. Otherwise, you can drop off.
Sagar, do we have class tomorrow?
No, like generally, like we won't have classes on weekends. We will
Okay,
have sessions
okay,
from Monday to Friday on.
okay. And what you are going to cover tomorrow, sir?
So tomorrow, like we will see the two cases, like how we can migrate new profiles. After that, we will see how we can run test classes. Post that, we will like if we have time, we will take the case of like setting up the CI/CD process for a project where Bitbucket is used as the Git provider. So like we will do all of the things from scratch that needs to be done in order to implement that CI/CD process.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I have your number, sir, if you don't mind?
Like if you like get in touch with this institute people, like
Okay,
they will like they can arrange a call with me, like we can speak there.
Sure, sure. That helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So I assume that there are no questions to anyone. Okay then. So probably I think we'll meet again on Monday. See you all. Thank you.